Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine. Welcome to day 10 of Qur'an Journaling. Today we're going to be journaling ayah number 10 and 11. So I have my Ibn Kathir Tafsir book. I'm using this along with an online Tafsir that I'm listening to. You can find the link to that playlist in the description box below. I also have my Qur'an notebook, which is coming in incredibly handy. I hope that you'll check it out, especially if doing all of the drawings isn't your thing. This might be just right for your Qur'an journaling. So I've used up my entire page, but don't worry, I'm going to show you how to add some more space to your notebook. I also have the notebook that I'm going to be drawing in. I bound this with some drawing paper at a local office supply store, and you can see some of the Qur'an journaling that I've done so far. So I'm going to put this aside so that I can add some pages to my Qur'an notebook. I have just some, it's almost like transparency paper or tracing paper, and I'm going to cut it in thirds so it doesn't completely cover everything, but it's going to be enough to give me some more space, and I'm going to tape it down, and that way it's really easy to flip up and see the writing that I've previously done, and then write over this, but have it not completely cover everything. You could certainly use regular paper as well, or you could use Post-its. So there's a number of things you can do. I found that once I start writing, I end up writing a lot and a lot of thoughts start coming out, but you could also use this notebook just to write a few pivotal pieces of tafsir, and that way you would certainly have enough room. So I'm going to be writing some notes on ayah number 10 and ayah number 11. Now, in my previous session, I had thought that I was going to do ayah 9 and 10. So I already listened to the tafsir, and also I had read through a little bit on ayah 10, but I'd only written a few notes. And today I decided I was going to write a lot more notes on ayah number 10 and do something quite extensive on ayah number 11. So I am pairing these two ayahs together, even though I would not really put them together. I really wanted number 10 to go with number 9. That way we can complete the first 10 ayahs together, since that is what's recommended to recite and memorize. And so I felt a little uncomfortable adding 11 with 10, but I ended up putting them together and doing the illustration on something kind of unexpected. So hopefully you will see the connection of the illustration with these two ayahs and the tafsir that go along with it. So now that I am done with the written portion, and there'll be more writing, of course, with the journal, but now that I've gotten all of my thoughts down on paper, I can kind of visualize what I want to do for this drawing. Now, this drawing is mostly going to get erased and drawn and erased again and drawn again. I spent a lot of time erasing and drawing because I'm drawing something pretty much brand new to me. I've drawn this before on a very small scale, and when it's super tiny, it's really easy to get away with not knowing how to draw something very specific. But when it's larger, you kind of need to get certain shapes right, and I was really struggling with this shape a lot. And even in the end, I'm still not 100% happy with the way it turned out, the face at least, but it's good enough, and I think that it really illustrates what I am trying to write as far as the hadith that I'm going to include with this journaling. So a note on drawing people and animals. Definitely 100% against drawing any images of historical figures in the Surah or the previous prophets. There's no evidence that that's okay, and it's not part of our tradition at all. When it comes to drawing people and animals for educational purposes, I'm personally okay with that. This sort of falls into a gray area for me personally. I don't feel 100% comfortable because this is a personal journal rather than an educational tool for others. It's for myself. And so I sort of contemplated whether to do this or not. And if there are like little images here and there, I'm not so concerned about it, but this is a really big, prominent, very obvious camel in this drawing, and I'm doing it to illustrate the hadith, which is very important in this, in the reflection of this ayah. So I'll tell you the ayah that we're doing, the two ayahs that we're doing. Number 10 is, remember when the young men fled for refuge to the cave, they said, O Lord, bestow on us mercy from yourself and facilitate for us our affair in the right way. And then number 11 is, therefore we covered up their hearing, causing them to go into a deep sleep in the cave for a number of years. So ayah number 10, they did an action of seeking refuge in a cave, and they also prayed to their Lord to bestow mercy upon them. And so the hadith that I want to share by narrated or collected rather by Tirmidhi, a man said, O Messenger of Allah, should I tie my camel and trust in Allah, or should I leave her untied and trust in Allah? The Prophet ﷺ said, tie her and trust in Allah. So that's the illustration for today's session, is to illustrate this hadith. And I chose to illustrate this hadith rather than once again do another cave, because we've had a lot of mountains and caves and we kind of understand where that's going, but we there's still going to be reflections and passages, and I decided to illustrate this because when there is something that we need or we I guess seeking protection or seeking some kind of action from Allah or protection from Allah, or that we're trusting in Allah, we are also doing something as well. So in this case, you're not just going to leave the camel, you will tie the camel and then trust in Allah. And then whatever happens always is always from Allah. But here you did your action of tying the camel, rather than, I didn't do anything. Oh, look, my camel got lost. Poor me. Like, Allah willed this for me. Allah, of course, knows everything that's going to happen, and everything that happens for you is, for a believer, is good, right? We know this as Muslims, that everything that happens to us is good because it all comes from Allah. But we have to do an action also. And the action that the people of the cave, the youths of the cave, did was that they sought refuge, sought protection in a cave. And so my notes are these, that we have to infer a few things from this. If they are seeking protection, they are running away or leaving or escaping from something that is in some way harmful for them. And so we gather that the king is requiring these youth to denounce their belief in Allah or associate partners with Allah, do something that is in contradiction with their faith. And if they don't, there will be a consequence, and that consequence might be death, it might be harm of some kind. And so these youth are escaping this harm, and they seek shelter in this cave. And once they get to the cave, then they pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah answers their prayer. And when they get into the cave, they go into the cave, but not too deep. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He causes their ears to be covered. And so in covering their ears, they fall into a very deep sleep. And they're in a deep sleep undisturbed for many years, many years. Like it would be, this is a miracle, this is unnatural for them to sleep for 300 years. So they sleep for more than 300 years. But if you did, you would die, it's not possible. And so in their sleep, they turn from side to side. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused them to turn from side to side so that they would stay healthy. He had the sun was rising, it rises in the east, sets in the west, and the mouth opening, the cave opening, was positioned in a way that never got direct sunlight, where they would be exposed to the harm of the direct sunlight, but they were still exposed to sunlight so that they got the benefits of the sunlight without the harm and the exposure. Additionally, they had their dog who sat or stood guard at the mouth the cave, the opening of the cave. And the last thing, and I had questions about this, and so in writing my notes, I put a question mark around it, but they're also sleeping with their eyes open, so that if anyone should fall upon them, they would fall upon, 6 or 5 or 8 people who are in a cave, young men who are in a cave with their dog. So all of these things are preventative measures for them being found out. If someone should have happened upon them, they would be deterred by seeing the dog. And if they were not deterred by seeing the dog, they would be maybe deterred by seeing these young men either sleeping or with their eyes open in a way that would cause them to turn away and not disturb them. So these 2 ayahs and the reflection are written on the top part. So once again, I've changed the format of how I'm doing this Qur'an journaling. And based on the previous session where I really liked drawing the cave and then the writing around it, I decided to do the same with this. And I did the illustration at the bottom, which I think for the most part, the illustrations will end up being at the bottom or the side of the page. And then writing my portion above it so that it's clear to read the written portion and the illustrations are set apart from them. I do like the way that this is going, and I think that this will probably be maybe the format for the remainder of this series. So I am adding a few details on the palm tree, which I just did it for height and interest on the one side. And then I really like the sunset in the previous lesson or the previous session. So I added the same kind of sunset here. And I'm just giving everything just a once over so that it's rich and beautiful to me. And I really, really like the way this turned out. I like the written portion at the top. I only just don't like the face of the camel, and I just gave him an eyebrow rather than an eyeball so that I could feel like it was less of an illustration of a camel and more of just a depiction. So this is what it looks like in the end, and you can find it on the blog post that accompanies this video. That link is in the description box below, as well as my additional notes and reflections on each of these entries. I hope that you're enjoying this series. I hope that you're following along. And if you are, please tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your work. On the blog post that accompanies this video, you can find all of the resources that I'm using and links to those resources. You can find that link to the blog post in the description box below. And if you'd like to see how we are Qur'an journaling on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.